Welcome to a very special edition of the Blue White Breakdown presented by PennLive. Johnny McGonigal here with our Steelers writer, Nick Farabaugh. It's draft week. We're recording this Wednesday morning. The NFL draft kicks off on Thursday night. We know Abdul Carter and Tyler Warren from Penn State are going to go in the first round, but a lot of other guys are too. 32 guys are going to go in the first round when it kicks off on Thursday night in Green Bay. Nick obviously will be following the Steelers very, very closely if you haven't already. And if you're a Steelers fan or even an NFL fan in general, check out his stuff on PennLive. A lot of really good content already up, Nick, with the Steelers are in a very interesting spot, obviously, in the Aaron Rodgers limbo still. Shadur Sanders a possibility. A lot of other guys possible picks for them at 21. We're gonna have we've both done mock drafts. Everyone has done mock drafts at this point. It's all mock draft season is almost over, but emphasis on the almost because we're gonna have one today. Me and you, we're gonna go back and forth. You've got the odd numbers because hey, the Steelers are 21, so I figured we'll let you take the Steelers pick and explain your reasoning there, depending on how the rest of the board flows. I got the even teams, and we're just gonna go back and forth here and have some fun and talk about some of the guys we like in this draft. Talk about some of the teams that are in some interesting spots, and it'll all depend on how the board falls. So, Nick, just some general thoughts. You excited about this?
Yeah, I'm excited about this. This is fun. Especially because this draft, I think Johnny is actually one of the more unpredictable drafts I could ever remember. There's a lack of like top end talent past like 10, and so when you get into the teens and the 20s, we can get crazy if we really want to. It's a lot of fun. This draft is going to be really fun, I think, even live. I think there's going to be some shocking picks. That's my guess. So maybe there'll be
Yeah.
some shocking ones here.
Yeah, it feels like, yeah, obviously you've got Abdul and you've got Travis Hunter as the top tier talents. And then you get through the top 10, you're looking at Mason Graham, the D tackle out of Michigan, Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State. Like there's a top crop, if you will. But you mentioned after 10, like it feels like a lot of these guys who are graded in the 10 to 15 range are pretty similar to the guys who might be in the 30 to 35 range. And that makes for a very deep draft. Teams are going to be valuing their second and third round picks, but for this exercise, we don't care about the second and third round. We care about only the first round. Also, for this exercise, because we're doing this kind of on the fly, no trades. Trades in mock draft trades are fun. They add a different element to it, but honestly, that's just a lot to keep track of. So we're not going to do any trades, even though there definitely will be trades, whether it's trade backs or trade ups on Thursday night. So Nick, why don't you start us off? You got the first pick with the Tennessee Titans, and everyone kind of knows where they're going to go. But interested to see if you have a curveball, if you're going to stick with the status quo.
Nope, I'm sticking with it. We're gonna shock the world and take Cam Ward out of Miami. That's the pick. The Titans need a quarterback. He's the best quarterback in the class, in my opinion, and a worthy 1-1 selection. So they will get Cam Ward. This has been known for like 3 months now. I feel like that he's going to go first overall. It was just is somebody gets trade up for him, but Cam Ward lands where everyone kind of thought he would. So no surprises there.
All right, so I've got the second pick. Yeah, I mean, Cam Ward is going to the Titans. No need to get crazy with that one. I'm going to get a little weird with the second pick already because it feels like the conversation it feels like Travis Hunter is going to go number two. It feels like the corner slash wide receiver, probably more of a wide receiver at the next level and sprinkle in dime package or whatever else. Maybe the other way around. It depends on whichever team he falls with. But it feels like the Heisman Trophy winner is going to Cleveland. But if I'm Cleveland's GM, I'm looking at one end of my defensive line and saying I have Myles Garrett, arguably the best pass rusher in the league, one of the best. Let's just make it really hard on AFC quarterbacks. Let's take Abdul Carter, the Penn State star, at number two. Even though he's probably going to land at three, I think the betting odds even have him landing at three. If you can get those wherever you live, but I like the pairing with Abdul. I just like this fit for him, and as a Penn State reporter, I'm going to put Abdul in what I think is the best situation to succeed, which is opposite Myles Garrett. So I'll take him number two with the Browns.
Yeah, that's a terrifying pass rush. So I understand why they would do it. I also understand why they would take Travis Hunter. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with the Giants. Travis Hunter is a New York Giant. Makes complete sense. I don't know where the Giants would play him. I don't know if they put him with Malik Neighbors. I don't know if they put him across from Paulson Adebo. They are strong at both spots in different ways, but he's just a talent you can't pass up. In my opinion, the best true talent in this class. So the Giants get a really good player here at 3, and so even if they had thoughts of Shedeur Sanders or whoever else, you're not passing on Travis Hunter if it's there. So they take Travis Hunter.
It would be the most Giants thing ever if they did pass on Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. If they decided to trade back and get cute, and maybe hey, we'll trade back with, I don't know, the Saints, or trade back with the Panthers, and we'll take a quarterback there. And it's like, no, man, just take one of the two best talents in the draft. And I know that if it's Abdul, he's going to be with Kayvon Thibodeau unless they trade him, and Brian Burns. So like their pass rush isn't necessarily a huge need, but it's one of those where like there's a drop off in talent beyond those two guys. So just take one of the two. That wasn't me rambling because I needed time for the Pats, because I'm going to go with chalk here and just take Will Campbell. I thought about Ashton Genty. I think that'd be fun. But when you have Drake May, a promising young quarterback, you need someone to block for him. You can't have him running for his life. You can't have him, picking up injuries and having an injury plagued career. They invested so much in him already, getting him to New England. So a little concerned with the arm length and all that kind of stuff as a tackle, but at the very least, like, it feels like his ceiling is a really, really, really good guard in the NFL. And so, you're Mike Vrabel. You're a guy who likes the trenches. I'll take Will Campbell at LSU at number 4 with the Pats.
Yeah, I think the linemen, they're so scarce in this class. It's not a deep class there, so I think it makes sense for Campbell there. I'm interested to see if Campbell's actually the one they go with. I think there's a few guys they could maybe look at others. They'll come off the board shortly, I'm sure. So the Jags are interesting. I think this is where the draft starts. This is kind of where, I think about it. I have 4 names in my head, and it's really Armand Membu, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, and I am kind of thinking of sprinkling in a Tetairoa McMillan. And so
I love Ted. I love Ted. I feel like he's been falling in a lot of these mocks or however, whatever else, but as an RIP the Pac-12, but I'm still calling it Pac-12 After Dark. As a Pac-12 After Dark sicko, during the college football season, watching Ted McMillan for Arizona catch passes was a treat.
Dude, I love Ted. But here, I look at the Jags. I look at what they need. They need a dominant interior defensive lineman. They do. Mason Graham, even in a great class, I think is the clear best one. And even though I really thought about taking a skill player, because I think they need skill talent, because aside from really Brian Thomas, I mean, they have Travis Etienne, but he's heading into the last year of his contract. So where do you go there? I think you could definitely make the argument for Genty here. But I'm going to go with Graham because I think he can be a dominant force for them in the middle of that defense. I think they need some dominant forces in that defense. Build up that line. They already have Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. Continue to make it really, really strong. Build this as a unit you can really build your defense around. And I think Mason Graham fits what they want there. So I'm going to take Mason Graham at 5. I thought about a curveball. It's a really tough spot to mock, to be quite honest with you. But Mason Graham's so good, and so I'll take him here.
Liam Cohen, the new coach for the Jags, kind of a weird opening press conference and kind of catching everyone off guard there a little bit. I don't think they're going to be catching anyone off guard if they take Mason Graham because he is that talented of a player. But I'm sure the Liam Cohen coming from being the offensive coordinator with the Bucs and having Mike Evans and looking at Ted McMillan and saying you can be my Mike Evans is probably intriguing, but totally understand the pick there. All right, so I almost said Oakland. I can't get it out of my head. But the Las Vegas Raiders at number 6. It feels like it's like Ashton Genty. But we're gonna have a little curveball here. We're gonna take Armand Membu at tackle because I think that there's still a need there. I mean, their offensive line isn't terrible, but it's not great either. And the last thing you want is after trading for Geno Smith to have an older quarterback. I mean, he doesn't have the tread on the tires like a guy his age would have, but you don't want him running for his life. And so you just slot Armand Membu in there. at right tackle, left tackle, wherever you think he feels best. But the Missouri tackle is going to Vegas, which leaves Ashton Genty on the board as we barrel towards the end of this top 10, which I think would be a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I'm not sure he gets past the Raiders in a predictive mock, but hey, we're having fun here. The
Exactly.
Jets, the Jets are an interesting team because they have Justin Fields. They feel like they need a weapon here. You've heard the Brees Hall trade rumors, have you not? This could be a Genty spot, but I'm going to go with the other Penn State guy. I'm going to go Tyler Warren here at 7. I like this fit for Tyler Warren. If you look at what Justin Fields does really well, he does like to throw to tight ends, especially guys that win over the middle of the field with physicality like Tyler Warren. They need a big-time weapon there to pair with Garrett Wilson, to pair with Brees Hall. And that tight end room needs a true dominant force there. And Warren and Loveland, I think, are just different levels of players compared to the rest of this tight end class. And so I'm taking Tyler Warren at 7. We know taking tight ends in the top 10 has proven risky, but I do think Tyler Warren's that type of player. I think this is a great fit for Tyler Warren, and so I'm going Tyler Warren.
Man, I was really hoping that Warren, because I have the even picks, and I'm looking ahead at 10 with the Bears. And I was really hoping Tyler Warren would fall there because I just need to see, like, as someone who watched Tyler Warren his whole career at Penn State, and specifically last season with how he was utilized by Andy Kotelnicki, not only catching the ball, obviously, but running it, throwing it, snapping the ball and going catching a 40-yard touchdown. Like, he can do anything you need him to do in an offense. And I would love to see new Chicago Bears head coach and former Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who likes to get a little weird. I would love to see him draw up plays for Tyler Warren and also help out Caleb Williams. I'm not a Bears fan, but I'm a football fan. But he's off the board, so he's no longer available to me with the Bears at 10. But I'm picking here at 8 as the Carolina Panthers have a lot of needs. But Jalen Walker is just kind of standing out to me, the edge from Georgia. A bit of a tweener, but at the same time, like the talent there and the ceiling and potential is undeniable. You can do worse than taking the best defensive player off of Georgia's defense if you have a top 10 pick in any given year. And so the Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales, can't really mess this up. So let's go with Jalen Walker at 8.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. I think there's a lot of bust potential there, but he's also a great talent. The Panthers, if we were doing trades, do feel like a team that would move out.
Absolutely. I mean, it feels like the Bears could maybe move up to 8 or someone else. I mean, the Cowboys could move up to 8 if Genty is still on the board at this point, which, by the way, like taking Membu at 6 with the Raiders, that's probably not going to happen. But I kind of just wanted the Genty falls and see what happens situation to play out here a little bit.
Yeah, with the Saints on the board, Membu gone. I think obviously they need to tackle Ryan Ramczyk, retired. But they also I think they need an edge player there. Cam Jordan's not getting any younger, obviously. But here's the thing. Ashton Genty's on the board. I'm going Ashton Genty to the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh.
We are passing on a quarterback, a tackle, and
Wow.
a edge player. Why? Because Ashton Genty, man, is a stud. I think at some point there's players that fall to a certain point in the draft that you can't pass up. And if the Saints are going to take Genty, they got to take him now. Because I'm sure with the Bears at 10, with their intentions with Ben Johnson, Ashton Genty's like the perfect fit for them. Genty at 9 to the Saints. I know they still have Alvin Kamara, but he's not getting any younger. I think he could be a big play weapon for them.
Wow. All right, man. Okay. Well, shoot. You know what? You were probably thinking you were going to get Membu to fall to 9, maybe, with the Saints. And I thought that in this scenario that Genty might fall to 10. And one of my best friends is a Bears fan. And I told him we were doing this exercise. And he said, just get me Warren or Genty. So neither of those two options are there. I apologize to my friend Mike. Not a thing. But hey, we're sitting here at 10. We're the Bears. Both of the offensive players that we wanted are off the board. Let's go with some edge help. Let's go Michael Williams from Georgia and shore up that edge and just try to get after court. He's great against the run, and there's flashes there. I know he dealt with some injuries at Georgia as well, which kind of stunted the production a bit. But let's go with Michael, and and move on and be a little upset we didn't trade up to nine or eight to get Genty.
Man, I like Michael Williams. I have no idea what order the edge guys are going to come off the board. I think that is actually pretty
It feels like there's
fascinating.
going to be a run at some point. It feels like there's going to be a run on edge because there's a finite number of players. I mean, I shouldn't say finite. There's a crop of like 5 or 6 guys that could theoretically go in the first round at edge, but once that run starts, and you already went, like it's kind of hard to get back in on those guys.
I feel like the Niners, as a result, then are kind of in a weird spot here. Um, Listen, I think Membu makes sense for them. I think Michael Williams makes a lot of sense for them. I mean, they could go corner, they could go tackle. I think I'm gonna go tackle here. We're gonna have our third tackle off the board. Kelvin Banks out of Texas is where I'm going here. He's going to go higher than people think in the draft, anyways. I think a lot of people view him as like around the 20s. He's going in the teens, probably early teens. Could even sneak into the bottom of the top 10 from things I've heard. So this kind of tracks there. And Kelvin Banks is a good player. You could play him at either tackle spot, kick him inside to guard if you want, but they need help at tackle. Colton McKivitz is not cutting it. Right tackle. Trent Williams is obviously not getting any younger. That offensive line needs to stay strong. And so I'll take Kelvin Banks here. I think there's a lot of different ways you could go. I mean, if they really like someone like Mike Green, they could take him. They could theoretically go corner here. They can go Shamar Stewart. I think there's a lot of different things they could do here, but I'm going with Kelvin Banks.
It's not a bad idea to take a guy that started 40+ games at Texas, on their offensive line. Like Kelvin Banks is really as polished as experience as you would want from an offensive lineman. And like you said, Nick, the versatility there, if he's not a tackle right away, he could be a guard for you right away. Regardless, they need some help on the San Francisco offensive line. So I don't mind the pick. I'm sure the Texans sitting all the way back at 25, like he's not falling past that point. But you're probably right. Like with the dearth of tackles in this class, the depth, like he's probably not even getting to them at that point. So I'm sitting here at 12 as the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Jerry Jones. I'm talking to Dak Prescott. I'm talking to CeeDee Lamb. And he's like, please get me someone opposite me who can free up some space so I'm not seeing double teams the entire 2025-26 season. And I'm looking at both Matthew Golden from Texas and Ted McMillan from Arizona, the two top wide receivers in this class. And I think Golden's speed could actually open up more space for Lamb, and the Texas kind of storyline, Longhorn staying in state. I like it, but give me Ted. I like Ted too much to let him fall past 12. So Tedero McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona, go number 12 to the Dallas Cowboys and providing Dak Prescott with someone else other than CeeDee Lamb to throw to.
I think that is a Jerry Jones pick. Matt Golden also makes sense, though, right? The Texas kid comes to Dallas. Speed. He's the flashy pick. But Ted McMillan, I think, is too good to fall too far. So this makes a lot of sense. So 13, the Dolphins, huh? Good luck predicting where the Dolphins are going to go here. They need O-line help, but the O-line's on the board. I'm not reaching for an offensive lineman here. Corner is a big time need. They don't really have one outside of Jalen Ramsey, who seemingly is going to get traded. Tyreek Hill gets moved. Could this be a golden landing spot? I mean, there's a few spots, but I am going to go corner here, and I'm not going Will Johnson. I'm going Jahdae Barron. That's who I'm going. I love me some Jahdae Barron. If you listen to Steelers Breakdown, you know how much I love Jahdae Barron. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He's got ball skills. He's a feisty player. He's experienced. I think he's one of those game-changing nickels that nowadays we see in the NFL, guys like Brian Branch and Cooper DeJean that come in and change what your defense does. That's been the big issue for the Dolphins. Their defense hasn't held up when it's gotten into January, even though their offense has also not held up specifically because of their offensive line. But there's no O-lineman on this board, and I think Barron in particular fits what they really like to do. So a little bit of a curveball, maybe not the position, but the player. But I love Jahdae Barron.
I love Jahdae Barron too. I think he was the best player on that Texas team that made it as far as they did last year in the CFP. And I'm interested to see like where he goes on draft night because he is, in my opinion, like a top 10, top 15 talented type of player. But you mentioned that nickel role. You mentioned Brian Branch and Cooper DeJean, two guys who went in the second round. Like I feel like the NFL has almost dinged those kind of players or made them wait longer than they should. And I'm wondering maybe they'll wise up. Maybe there will be a correction on that, and Jahdae Barron will go in the top 15. Like I think we both agree that he is talented enough to be in that conversation and be in that range. So love me some Jahdae Barron as well. And I'm sitting at 14 as the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm loving me some Colston Loveland. Like there's a reason why the tight end from Michigan has been mocked and projected to Indy so much. I think part of the reason is because Tyler Warren is seemingly more and more of a top 10 guy and not going to be within the range of the Colts to take at 14. And Colston Loveland, if only Michigan had someone who could throw a forward pass last year, he would have been able to show off what he could do a hell of a lot better. And there might be some of those issues in Indy too. You know, Anthony Richardson's still very much a project, and Daniel Jones is hanging out as a potential option for them. The quarterback situation is going to get better for Colston Loveland in the NFL. Maybe not a whole lot better, but Indy needs a tight end, fewest catches from the tight end group of all NFL teams last year, and they take the explosive player from Michigan.
Yeah, another player I think is a top 10 talent in this class. But shoulder medicals are also a thing with Loveland, so he'll probably be there. And he makes a lot of sense for them. It's like their missing piece on offense, right? You know, you got Pittman, you got Taylor, you got Pierce over the top. You got a lot of good players down in the slot. It's a really good group, honestly. So I like Loveland there. So the Falcons, huh? I like being in draft press conferences because every time I'm in one, D. Orlando Ledbetter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution always asks, you know he's going to ask because he's a Falcons writer, he always asks, what's the edge help like in this class? Because the Falcons perpetually need edge rushers because they can't hit on one. All right, let's take another swing at edge rusher then. There is still a few edge rushers on the board that I think are really talented players, but I'm going to take Shamar Stewart. And I think that's going to be one that ruffles a little bit of feathers. What do you mean you're going to take the guy that averages, 1.5 sacks per season? But look at the tape. He wins in lots of ways. He's a bit of a tweener. Can play a little bit inside, but he's probably an edge rusher. But he wins with speed. He wins with power. He has the hard part down. He just needs to finish. And I think the upside with Shamar Stewart is superstar. Also, there's just questions to me about Mike Green specifically. The character concerns there, stemming from some things that happened in Virginia. So I do think that Green has more red flags than Shamar Stewart does, although Shamar Stewart has the production red flags. But I don't think this is too early for Shamar Stewart either. I think he's a very, very talented football player. So I'm going to take him here. I think ideally Michael Williams falls to them, but if he doesn't, I do think, Stewart or Green make a lot of sense for them.
It would be really funny if the Falcons just don't take an edge rusher. Like they need it. They always need it, and they never take an edge rusher. So you finally give them one. I'm sure Falcons fans will be thanking you, Nick, if that comes to fruition. Sitting here with the Arizona Cardinals at 16, a lot of different ways that they can go. But I'm looking at one of my favorite players in the draft, and he's hanging out here. And sure, he might go later because of positional value and all that. But Jihad Campbell is just a tone setter. He's a guy you plug and play. He's a guy that makes your defense better immediately. And if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, who was former defensive coordinator with the Eagles. You can use a guy like that right away and just make your team better. So, give me Campbell, linebacker from Alabama.
Yeah, it's a really good pick. Jihad Campbell is by far and away the best linebacker in this class. Again, another guy with medicals, so we'll see how those check out. But man, he is a fun player. He's awesome. Whichever team gets him, this would be like the Eagles picking at 32 if he falls to them. That could be a scenario with the medicals, but I love him at 16. I really actually wanted him to last in 19. I think he's a great fit in Tampa Bay. But
He is, yeah.
Tampa not going to get a shot here. But first, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, and if you know anything about the Bengals, because I watched the Bengals a lot, obviously, since I covered the Steelers, this team needs defense badly. They also need a guard, but I'm not gonna go O line here. Again, it's pretty thin. I could, really try and go. I could go Gray Zabel here. I could go. Um, I could go Josh Simmons. I think he's a great player. But I am instead going to go defense, and I am going to go to the defensive line. We are going to have our first interior defensive lineman since Mason Graham come off, and it's going to be Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I'm a big Derek Harmon fan. If you watch Steelers Breakdown again, I think he's very comparable to Stephon Tuitt. I think he is an awesome penetrating player. I think his run defense has improved immensely over the last 2 years. And they need pass rushers up front. Trey Hendrickson, obviously, he has his situation, but they need interior pass rushers, man. They don't got anything there that is really threatening on the interior. They could use help at all three levels. They could take Will Johnson here, I think. And again, they could go O-line if they really wanted to, but you just did that last year with Omarius Mims. So I'm going with Derek Harmon here, getting a player on defense that I think actually gives you long-term upside and starting to build that unit up to help Joe Burrow.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. And when I look at guys like Derek Harmon and Campbell and just players you're going to find in this range, the 15 to 25, whatever that might be. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com, one of the best in this draft evaluating business, and the way that he kind of classified this draft, it's a lot of starters versus stars. Like, you're not going to have as many stars in this class, but you're going to have a hell of a lot of starters come out of it. And Harmon feels like one of those players. Campbell feels like one of those players. Guys who obviously have upside, but immediately make your defense or make your team better. So that was a little bit of rambling, a little bit of time wasting to give myself some time on the Seahawks, because could go Gray Zabel, the interior offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Could go with a wide receiver, Matthew Golden. They just traded DK Metcalf. If I was, taking Golden to the Cowboys and McMillan fell all this way, that feels like a like for like kind of deal after, trading DK. I'm going to go with like a sensible thing, though. I'm going to go Gray Zabel. I'm going to go interior offensive line. They need the help desperately. We saw what Sam Darnold did when the offensive line fell apart late in the season last year when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. Now he's with the Seahawks. He needs people to block for him. North Dakota State, they know how to develop these offensive linemen. Like, I know it's FCS to NFL, but they've done a good job in the past. And so, yeah, we're going to take interior offensive line at number 18 overall.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. And again, I thought about that. That's probably the right range for him. The O-line are going to go earlier than people think. I'm telling you on that. The Buccaneers, this is an interesting roster. It's a good roster, but defense probably needs help. They could use another receiver. I could see that being a thing. But I'm looking at two positions here, really, with Jahad Campbell off the board. I'm looking at corner. I'm looking at edge. And this is it's a deep enough edge class that I could take a guy like Mike Green here, or I could shock the world and take a different player. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to the ACC. I'm taking Donovan Ezaraku out of Boston College. I think a lot of people aren't kind of keyed into how good Donovan Ezaraku is going to be. Really twitched up athlete, extremely heavy hands. He's ready to play day one. I think he could be a guy in year one that gets 7-8 sacks. I think if you want to look at Todd Bowles' defense, they blitz a lot, probably too much to their detriment. I think they need a stronger pass rush so they can start to rush forward and mix things up there and kind of give him more options as a schematic play caller, because he's a really good one. But he felt last year he had to send the all-out blitz. You could go corner, but I don't think that helps, because I think Will Johnson's more of a zone type of corner. Again, he has medicals as well. So I think Johnson's kind of in this weird gray zone, if you will, for them. I'm not sure he's a great fit in that defense. And then, Mike Green, again, he has some questions there. And I think the tape at times is a little rocky. So I like Donovan Ezaraku a lot more than probably people like. So this one's going to be surprising, but I decided to throw a curveball. I'm taking Donovan Ezaraku at 19. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to happen in the draft, but I would do it.
I love it. Look, especially with Campbell off the board, edge feels like a spot that Tampa Bay could go or will go if that's the case. I'm sitting here. I'm Sean Payton at number 20 with the Denver Broncos. And Matthew Golden is still on the board, and I'm really intrigued. Really intrigued. But it feels like Sean Payton has a way of finding good wide receivers in the second and third round. And this wide receiver class, there's going to be some really good players that go off the board in the second and third round. It feels like there's going to be a wide receiver run on day two. And, Jalen Knoll, from Iowa State, even Beck from TCU. Like there's a lot of guys like that out there that you can find value at the wide receiver position. You can also find value at the running back position. But Amarian Hampton is sitting here for me at 20. And I can find my next Alvin Kamara 2.0 if I'm Sean Payton. So I will take at number 20 overall, Amarian Hampton, the running back from North Carolina, put him in a backfield with Bo Nix, let them go to work, and try to keep scoring a hell of a lot more points as we compete with Pat Mahomes and Justin Herbert all in the same division. So that's my pick if I'm the Broncos at 20. And now Nick Farabaugh, Steelers writer for PennLive. You are on the clock as Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. You couldn't trade up. You can't trade back. You're sitting here at 21. What's your pick?
It's a pretty good board for the Steelers. It really is.
It is.
You have Will Johnson on the board if you want to go corner. You have Matt Golden on the board if you want to go wide receiver. You have Shadur Sanders on the board if you want to go quarterback. And you have 2 of the 3 defensive linemen on the board. So I'll say this. I know I can't trade back. If there was a trade back board, brother, this is it. So I look at that. I'll tell you what, I'm not taking Shadur Sanders. So I've been very anti-round 1 quarterback. So it will not be Shadur Sanders at 21. My pick, I'm going to really debate between 2 guys. But I'm going to go to the position I've talked about all draft cycle, defensive line, where you're going to add a dominant force, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. That's who we're going. The Steelers have shown no interest in Walter Nolan. So are they going to pick him here? Almost certainly not. Would I pick Walter Nolan here? Absolutely. You want to talk about an absolute pass rushing dominant 3 technique. This is that guy. He could be an absolute force for you next to Cam Hayward or Keanu Benton. I think he has, you talked about the stars versus starters conversation, Johnny. I think if you're looking at guys that have star potential in this tier, he's one of them. I think he could be a superstar. So the ceiling with this guy is insane. He's got innate talent. So I love Walter Nolan's game. I love the tape. And so I'm taking Walter Nolan here. Kenneth Grant's a good player. I'm a little scared he's too much of a 2-down nose right now versus, Walter Nolan, who's a 3-down player day in and day out. Golden, I think you can make a really good argument for, but they're probably not trading George Pickens. So, do you wait a year on that or do you take that talent? You could. And then Shador, if you really are quarterback hungry and you love him, you can take him. But I love Walter Nolan, so I'm taking him here.
Nick, one thing with Shador, and I'm curious, you've probably already addressed this on the pod and within your writing over the last few weeks, but with the Steelers not having a second round pick, do you think that'll change their thinking on taking a first round quarterback? Because, you can't trade from, higher up in the second round to the top of the second round to get one of these quarterbacks if they fall. If you're a fan watching the draft, is that something you're thinking of? Is that something you're considering as well?
I don't think it will because I think the scar tissue from 22 still, the Kenny Pickett miss obviously is still big for the Steelers. They're not going to reach on a quarterback, so if they don't believe he's the guy, they'll punt till next year, and I do think it's going to be a better class next year. We'll see exactly how good, but I don't think it's going to change the calculus too much. They'll just wait till, round 3, round 4, take someone like Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, something like that, in that tier of guys. If they don't love these guys, they could also trade back. I mean, if they trade back into the top of the second round, maybe, that throws in a guy like Jalen Milroe or Shuck or Dart into play, but we'll see. I'm kind of looking more. If they love Shador, they'll take him at 21. I think that's the answer there. If they don't, I think they'll wait till day 2.
For the record, I agree with you. I don't love Shador personally. Not personally. I don't have a personal vendetta against him. I just mean as a player, truly. And I love Walter Nolan. We were talking about Jahdae Barron earlier in this podcast. Nolan was one of my other guys watching college football all last year that just seemingly always stood out. And there are the I don't even want to say they're character concerns necessarily, but it's like an effort thing sometimes. Like he doesn't seem totally locked in. But I mean, if you're putting him on the same defensive line as Cam Hayward, like yeah, and the guys in that room, TJ Watt, like on that defense, he's gonna be playing up to snuff every snap. They're not gonna let him not play as well as he possibly can. So I like the Walter Nolan pick, and as I'm sitting here at 22 overall, and I'm the Los Angeles Chargers, and Puna Ford is no longer with our team, and I'm Jim Harbaugh, former Michigan head coach. I mean, Kenneth Grant seems like an obvious just slot into their defensive line, take up space, help against the run. He might only be a two down guy, but at the same time, they desperately need a two down guy to fill that open space. So I will take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan. And, the whole Michigan man thing, like you can just see Jim Harbaugh in his press conference playing that up.
I could see it. I love Kenneth Grant as well. I think all three of those guys are really good players, and he fits them well. It makes sense here. So the Packers, huh? This is an interesting spot to be in. I think the Packers are in a great spot. Could use corner help with Jair. Questions for the future. You have Will Johnson still on the board. You have a few guys on the board here, but how many times this year, Johnny, have we heard them talk about we need a wide receiver one? I think there's a potential wide receiver one on the board. And so Matthew Golden is a Green Bay Packer. That's where we're going here. I love Matthew Golden. If you know, I think he's right up there in terms of true talent with Tedero McMillan. Personally, on my board, I think his ability to get in and out of routes, his ability to be a route runner is elite. I think he wins above the rim for a guy his size. I don't think he plays the 4.29 speed, but he still plays like he's fast. He's a 3-level winner, can play outside or inside. When you were talking about the hodgepodge of this group in Green Bay specifically, they have a lot of players like Dubs, they have Wicks, they have Reed. It's a good group, but they need an alpha guy. I think Matthew Golden has a chance to be that. So we get a wide receiver that could change the offense in certain ways, and so that's where I'm going.
Last year, Nick, during fantasy football, I decided before the season I was just going to take like late round flyers on all of the Packers wide receivers and just see like someone has to step up and be an alpha, right? No, it was someone different every week, and that's not necessarily a good thing. You need someone to be that alpha, and I love that Matthew Golden fit for them. I also love it if I'm the Vikings and Will Johnson just keeps falling. And I understand like the concerns, he didn't run at all, injured last year. Flip on that 2023 tape that he put on at Michigan, and he talent wise is arguably the best corner in this draft. I love Jade, you love Jade, but Will Johnson falling to me as the Minnesota Vikings at number 24, I will gladly scoop him up there.
Yeah, Brian Flores is extremely excited for that pick, I'm sure. I like Will Johnson. It's just he's hard to find a fit for. I think he's a really good talent. I think the injury concerns, the down year, he's a really tough player to mock. I think he's got a crazy variance. He could go in the bottom of the top 10 or down to here. So we'll see where he goes. But I like the pick. Okay, Houston. Man, this is a tough one. Houston is in a weird spot. They've retooled their offensive line a lot this offseason. It still doesn't look that good. They've kind of patched it with a lot of one-year guys. Wide receiver, I think they could also use one. So I was thinking Emeka Egbuka a little bit here, but I'm going to go offensive line, and I actually think this guy is a really good player. I think he's much better than when we're picking him here. I'm going Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I know you talked about Calvin Banks, being that 40-type starter. I actually think Simmons is the better player on tape. He just has that obvious knee injury that's going to be a concern. But the tape is really good. I think if he didn't get hurt, we're talking about a guy that's maybe a top 10 pick here. So Simmons, to me, at 25, I mean, it's about as good of a pick as you're going to get on the offensive line at this point in the draft if you're Houston. And so I'm taking Simmons there. I like him more than Connerly, like him more than some of the other guys that are still on the board. So I think you can do a lot of good things there with Josh Simmons and give yourself a real building block on that offensive line to protect C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, if you're C.J. Stroud, you would like to stay upright. And, they traded Laramie Tunsil, so you need a tackle. On one hand, I'm sure C.J. Stroud is probably going to be, asking for Emeka Egbuka. from Ohio State. Bring another Buckeye. Let me throw to him, especially with the injury concerns to Tank Dell and trading Stephon Diggs and all that, right? But you need to not be on your butt as well if you're CJ Stroud, and so gladly take Josh Simmons if I'm the Texans. And now I'm here at 26, and I'm the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm in an interesting spot. Like, I'm committed to Matt Stafford in the short term. Don't really have a quarterback option in the long term. Jackson Dart is sitting right there for me. If I want him, if I want to get really frisky, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is give him someone to throw to, and I'm going to take Emeka Ibuka here. I like him, in the zone and sitting around, like the way he comes in and out of his breaks. Like he just has like that pro feel to him as a player. He doesn't need to be a number one. And you already have Puka, so I know that there might be a little bit of overlap there, but I'm committed to trying to win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford right now in the short term. They almost beat the Eagles in the playoffs last year. Just give him another weapon to throw to, and see what happens.
Yeah, I like that fit. I mean, basically slots right into where Cup was in that
Yep.
offense. He'll be a perennial 1,001, type receiver across from Puka Nakua. That's a great fit for him. He blocks. He fits everything McVay likes. It makes a lot of sense when you look at that. Okay, the Baltimore Ravens. How about this one? So the Ravens take everybody gets crazy. How'd the Ravens get that guy? How'd he fall to them? It's like happens every single year. There this year, I'm not sure there's an obvious player on the board. Green maybe. They could use an edge rusher. I wouldn't hate it for them. But I'm gonna go safety / nickel here. This is one of my favorite players in the draft. Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I'm a big Malachi Starks fan. I think he can man up in the slot. I think he can be a free safety for you. He can be a blitzer. This is a. If you're going to agree with me on this, I'm sure, Johnny. Is there a player in this draft that screams Baltimore Raven more than Malachi Starks? I mean, he screams Baltimore Raven to me. This guy fits their defensive identity. And if they pick Malachi Starks, everyone's going to be like, they got away with it again. The Baltimore Ravens get another stud on defense. And so Malachi Starks is my pick here.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Nick. I mean, so I've done three first round mock drafts up on PennLive. You go and read, listeners, if you haven't already. Read how some of those picks have changed with the more information that we're getting throughout this pre-draft process. Over the last month and a half, I've put them out. Tyler Warren has moved spots. A lot of players have moved spots. Malachi Starks, I'm pretty sure I had going to the Ravens in all three of them. And it's a combination of he fits, and then also the Ravens just tend to sit where they are, and they get a top 15, top 20 player, and they're picking late in the first round, and it falls right in their laps. So Malachi Starks, I love as a player. I love as a fit with the Ravens, and I'm the Detroit Lions now. I'm Dan Campbell, picking at number 28. There's a few players here that have fallen. Tyler Booker, I love. But you know what? Mike Green is still on the board, correct?
Yeah, he
He's
is.
fallen. Yeah, I think the fall stops here for Mike Green, and if I'm Dan Campbell, I'm just telling him, hey, you fell in this draft. You were supposed to go higher. Go bite a kneecap off for me and get after it. The Aiden Hutchinson injury history is a little bit murky and concerning. I'll take edge help here, and Mike Green out of Marshall at number 28.
Man, okay, that's a tough one because I really liked Mike Green with the Commanders. The Commanders are in a really odd spot now, to be quite honest with you. So I look at them here. I mean, they need edge help, but I'm not sure there's another edge rusher I love here, especially because I took the Ezeraku pick. Like, I think Ezeraku here is actually a really good pick for them. I mean, if I was going to make one, I'd probably James Pierce. I think it's a little early for him personally. I guess you could go receiver, but with Devo in there, I'm not probably going to take Burden. So corner feels right here then. They need some corner help. Marshawn Lattimore was hurt last year. I like Mike Sanders still in that room. But I really, really love one player that's still on the board of corner. Not quite sure why he's actually still here. I think I might have let this one slip through my fingers a little bit because I think he's going to go earlier. I'm going Trey Amos. That's who I'm going out of Ole Miss. I think he is such a fun player. He is a press player that you can get up there. He can play man to man. I think he's versatile. The ball production is solid. I think he sneaks into the round this area of the draft. And you could also go guys like Maxwell Hairston. You could go Azaria Thomas. Depends on your kind of flavor corner there. But I really like Trey Amos at this point in the draft. And so I'm going to take him here at the bottom of the first round.
I'm the Bills with the next pick, and I'm pissed because I wanted Trey Amos to fall to me here. His body type, the way he plays, just kind of feels like it would fit Buffalo, and obviously would help. When they keep knocking their head up against the ceiling that is the AFC Championship game, and they keep losing to Pat Mahomes, and that would help a player like him. I'm going to stick with the secondary though at the number 28 overall pick, and a player that coming out of the combine was the darling. He was the darling of the combine. He was rising up boards like crazy. And he's sitting here at number 28 30. 30. And I'm okay with it. I'm totally cool with Nick Emmanwori, the safety from South Carolina, falling to me at this point and just plugging him in the back end of the defense, maybe having a little fun with him, moving him around, and just creating problems in pass coverage for opposing quarterbacks. So the dude is just like a bullet. He's always hanging around a ball. So I will take Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina at number 30 overall.
Yeah, I think that fits. So the Chiefs, huh? This one's a little tough. Could they go running back? Could they? They could. It's not too early for one. Could they go offensive line? I think we watched that offensive line deteriorate. And then they traded Joe Thuney. And so there's a few needs on that O-line. I am going to go offensive line. As I said, I'm going heavy on the O-line here. I'm taking Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon for them. They need a tackle bad. I think, you don't love Connerly. He can slot right inside as well. He's a good player, man. This guy that's probably a top 25 player in this class. He's maybe even going to go earlier than this. Wouldn't shock me if he did. But if he's there at 31, I think he's a guy that could start day one. He's a plug and play type of guy for a team that just badly needs it. So I'm taking Josh Connerly here. A lot of O-line picks on this board, but there's not many in this class, so they're going to get pushed up, I think.
All right. So I'm sitting here. I'm Howie Roseman. I've got the last pick of the first round at 32 overall. And I'm probably trading this pick, with Shadur Sanders still on the board, Jackson Dart still on the board. The Eagles, it feels like once they're in that spot, they'll probably trade this pick to whoever wants that quarterback at number 32 overall. They did it before with Lamar, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. But since we're not doing any trades, I'm looking at a handful of players. I'm looking at Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo. We got a really good evaluation from Quinyon Mitchell. He loves him. Slot right in. You lose Milton Williams. He could help your defensive line right away. You could take Maxwell Hairston, but I think at corner they're okay, even though they lose Darius Slay. Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor are there as tight end options if you decide to trade Dallas Goedert and move off of that, with his contract coming to a close quickly. But James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee, there were talks during the college football season that he might be a top 5, top 10 pick. And it didn't fully come together for him, but it feels like the talent is still there. And Howie Roseman, if we know nothing else about him, he loves to draft edge rusher. They prioritize that position. Everyone prioritizes edge rusher across the NFL, but few put more of an emphasis on it than the Eagles do. So give me a high upside play in James Pierce Jr., defensive end from Tennessee, and I think the Eagles will be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think they will. He's high upside. But the Eagles are like the perfect landing spot for James Pierce. He's probably not ready to play a ton, but rotational role this year. He doesn't have to go in there and be the starter. I like him there. He'll develop. And if there is one place he's going to become a really good player, I mean, Philadelphia would be it. It's his ceiling. I mean, that is a potential star player. And we've seen what they've done with guys like Josh Sweat. So I do think that Pierce makes a lot of sense there. The Eagles are kind of a fascinating team. I mean, they could go any direction there at 32. But, I mean, hey, do you want to do 33 and 34 real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, 33. I'm the Cleveland Browns. I'm sitting here. I'm taking Shador. He's sitting here at 33. Shador Sanders is a Cleveland Brown. You pair him with Abdul Carter. And hey, I mean, if I'm Cleveland here, because I think Shador Sanders is a top 25 player in this class. There's just no one after the Steelers, if we're not doing trades, that's going to take him. If Cleveland's sitting at 33 and Shador's there, I would sprint to the podium and say, we're taking that guy. This could be our ticket out of quarterback purgatory. We're taking Shador.
Absolutely. I mean, and you pair in a real life scenario, because I was sitting there too as the Browns and I took Abdul Carter. Real life, they're taking Travis Hunter most likely at number 2. And then if you're sitting there at the top of the second round and Shador is there, pairing Shador and Travis Hunter, I mean, you better watch your back if you're Kevin Stefanski, because Dion is probably going to be the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns soon enough if they're able to pair both those Colorado guys together. But I love it. If I'm the Browns, that's a hell of a pairing. And then I'm sitting here at 34 now as the New York Giants. And in this scenario, I drafted Travis Hunter, or Travis Hunter was picked at the number 3 spot. And Jackson Dart's hanging out. So let's take him. Let's go back-to-back quarterback to start the second round. I mean, Russell Wilson, like Jameis Winston. Is Tommy DeVito and his very Italian agent still with the Giants?
Yes,
I think he is. Yes, they are. Well, none of them are going to be playing. Well, honestly, I was going to say none of them are going to be playing quarterback for the Giants next season if they take Jackson Dart, but that's actually not true. They'll probably ride with like Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston in 2025, be bad again, let Jackson Dart kind of hang out and develop and continue to grow, and then be in a position to draft someone really good for him next year. So, if I'm the Browns and I'm the Giants, and this is how the board falls, I'm loving life. But we know at the NFL draft, things are going to happen, right? Trades are going to happen. Players are going to get picked way earlier than you would expect. Players are going to drop. And Nick, I'm really excited for Thursday night. I know you are as well. You'll be down there, at the facility, right? With pretty much all weekend. You just holing up on the south side in Pittsburgh.
Yep, that's where I'm sitting out this weekend. We get to talk to all the Steelers prospects, Spike Tomlin, Omar Khan. It's fun. Draft weekend's one of my favorite things. I love the draft. It was like one of my first loves as a kid. I remember when it was 2 days. I like it when it was Saturday, Sunday, instead of, the Thursday through Saturday. But that's where I'm going to be covering. So make sure to read the stuff over at PennLive.com. There's so much that's going to be coming this week. And even for the Penn State guys, I'm sure, with all the top names coming off the board in round 1, Johnny.
Yeah, I am on Abdul Carter duty Thursday night. So we split it up. Me, Bob Flounders, Max Ralph. We split up Penn State's prospects. Obviously, Abdul and Tyler Warren going to be going in the first round. You've got Kevin Winston Jr., Jalen Reed as potential day 2 guys, especially Kevin Winston. I'm really intrigued to see where he lands after missing last season. And then into day 3, you've got the Kobe Kings of the world, maybe Jalen Kimber, Sal Wormley, whether they get drafted as 7th rounders, 6th rounders, or latch on as undrafted free agents. Still going to be a big weekend for Penn State in the NFL draft, and we'll have everything covered there as well. So stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have a post draft podcast, if not on Sunday, maybe Monday. Also, Blue White game is this weekend, so plenty of coverage there on PennLive for that as well, with Penn State wrapping up its spring camp. Nick, thanks so much, man, for taking some time. I know you're busy with the draft, as we all are, but this was a lot of fun, a way to put in context what we're about to see on Thursday night. And, like I said, have a little fun with it, and we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we will see what happens. This would be a crazy board fallout that we had, and I like some of the spicy picks we had. Trust me, guys, there are going to be some crazy picks, I think, in the first round, because crazier than what we said. I think there might even be one that just comes completely out of left field, and we're like, whoa, there's always one. Remember last year when Michael Penix got picked at 8? Everyone was like, what in the world just happened? I think we're going to get 2 or 3 of those this year.